Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Well, hello, listeners, and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Bryan O'Rourke, and today we have the infamous Sal Pellegrino joining us. We're going to talk about our experience at CanFitPro, talk about the FISA organization, get his insights on trends in the industry, and we'll talk a little bit about tech. I know that the fall is approaching, and I will be at Beyond Active in New York City doing a brief talk and conducting a panel on innovation and franchising. And I have the privilege of being the keynote at Alloy's personal training franchise conference, their first one in Atlanta in mid-September as well. So there'll be links in the show notes. I hope to see you at one of those events. So without further ado, let's welcome Sal to the podcast. Well, welcome everyone. Sal Pellegrino is joining us today. And Sal, it's such a great chance to catch up with you. Thanks for joining us this morning on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Bryan. I was so excited when you asked, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Well, Sal, you're known, you have quite a following. You know, you and I have been friends for almost 2 decades, I guess, always followed your advice and your trends. It was great to see you at CanFitPro in Toronto not even 2 weeks ago with your presentation for the vendors breakfast. Tell us a little bit about the presentation and how much you enjoyed being there at CanFit.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'd never been to CanFitPro, and it's always been on my bucket list. So when Mo Hagan, everyone calls her Mo, when Mo Hagan called and asked if I would present, I was honored. She had a chance to hear my daughter Sarah and I at Ursa last year do our 4 gens by 2 gens. So Sarah couldn't make it, so it was 4 gens by 1 gen. So it was great, and I just love that deep dive into the fitness behaviors of the 4 generations. The information that I share is from Murphy Research. Sarah Marion has always been so helpful and willing to share her research. And again, it's a great organization to follow. So that resonated well. I didn't know what it was going to be like at 8:30 in the morning, but no one left the room, and people were complimenting me. And so obviously that message about understanding how to communicate, market, and the fitness behaviors for the four generations, really resonated with the audience. So it was really really enjoyable. I did enjoy that. And then can I share a little bit about CanFitPro, right? So,
oh yeah, please. Yeah.
First of all, congratulations on being Vendor of the Year to you, Core, and Core Health and Fitness. I thought that was very cool. Did a great job up there introducing the keynote, who was great, by the way. I mean, he was impressive, and it was nice to recognize that they recognized Michael Bruno with his what was it, a Lifetime Achievement Award? I believe that's what it was. So anyway, it was really nice. And then I spoke on 2 occasions and had a chance to be on a panel discussion by FIC, that club association up in Canada. And boy, was that a good panel. I tell you, it was impressive as heck. And I'm not sure if they recorded it or not, but I thought we had really good synergy there. So again, I was knee deep in CanFitPro, and I really enjoyed my first experience.
Yeah, I've been there a couple times before, and I feel the same way. It's an intimate show. It's not small, but it's a very intimate. People know each other. I found it really wonderful, and seeing Patch there and the team there was really always a delight. Having worked with him over many years, I enjoy seeing him. Right. So, Sal, in February 2023, you joined FISA, and you're heading up that organization right now. And I've really enjoyed watching you. For the listeners and watchers, tell us a little bit about FISA. What does it do? How did it come about?
Okay, cool. So FISA is the Fitness Industry Suppliers Association. It's a nonprofit that was created 22 years ago by a handful of suppliers who were looking for something, you know, to create something a little different than the traditional trade show. So they got together and they met with David Dinneman, who was the executive director for the last 22 years. And so they put together this program. It started with FISA West, kind of morphed into FISA East, and then they created a YMCA event. So there's 3 events that they do. And then also they do a trend report. So there's a certain number of equipment suppliers that will share their financials and their sales, information on various products and categories, goes to a third-party accounting firm, and then they pay a fee to have this processed, and then you get a chance to see what your market share is. So it's a wonderful wonderful process. And I know when I was at Precor for many years, we looked at that report, and it helped us with our product development. So it was quite a great process, and I know everyone that participates in it always looks forward to receiving that in the early summer. So it's a lagging indicator. So it's from trends will be based on last year's results, but it really reinforces what your sense of trends will be in various equipment categories.
Yeah, and our genius here, Jeff Dilt, sits on the board there, and we really at Core rely on that information as well. I do find it life is without a sense of irony at times, because in our family of brands, you were one of the original Stairmaster guys in the day, and you can see the logo right there. So, and you also worked at Star Trek, so there's a lot of crossover between Jeff and you and everything else. It's a small but very well connected industry.
Well, it's funny. I mean, Stairmaster, God, I think I was employee number 8 or 9, there.
Yeah.
So what a fun experience that was. And I know we've talked about it in the past, the experience, and it was quite a great thing. And I enjoyed my time at Core Health and Fitness working for Michael Bruno. I mean, it was a great 6 years, and nice to stay connected. And Jeff, I have to give him a shout out, because as product leaders go, he was the best product manager that I've ever worked with. He's fantastic. Yes. And then just an incredible board member. So it's really great, having the opportunity to work with him and the rest of the board members. We just had our annual board meeting a week and a half ago, and it was really good. We kind of set the stage for next year, and again, it was kind of fun.
That's great. And in the show notes, Sal, we'll have links to FISA. If people don't already know, they can learn more about it, and great work there. So that leads us to a segue into trends. Since you're spending time with all these suppliers and you're doing reports, for the listeners, can we talk about maybe the top, 3, 4, or 5 things you see right now as trends that the report's telling you that you're gleaning from your time in market?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to answer it 2 ways. I'm going to answer it first from a club operator standpoint. So if I'm a decision maker at a commercial facility, YMCA, JCC, recreation center, whatever it is, you got to keep an eye on trends. You got to know what's going on in your marketplace. But things that just have come at us in the last year that I think are really amazing. Number 1, women in strength training. I mean, every person I talk to, they just go, "Oh my God, I don't know where." And it's Gen Z women, and they kind of come in their little packs of 3 and 4. And in speaking with Dr. Paul Bedford at CanFitPro, he shared that the average time in the UK of this age group was 2 hours and 6 minutes. So what they do is they come in and they'll stay on a half rack for 45 minutes or whatever it is. And but that's amazing to me. And then what's happening? The glute category, right? I mean, where did that come from? And I just think that's interesting. I think it kind of ties in to the women, and maybe a little Kardashian influence there, right? And then you have outdoor fitness, which, from the pandemic, people that went into the outdoors, people still like that a lot, And then, obviously turf, open space. I guess the realignment, if you're purchasing today, a little less cardio, open up for more strength. I mean, and then, stair climbing. How old is the Stairmaster now? What is it? 34, 35 years, whatever it is.
5 years.
It's still growing, double-digit growth, right? Every year. And there's 9 or 10 companies that manufacture that here in North America or sell it. And that category just continues to grow. So that amazes me. So you kind of, when you're doing floor plans, I think you really have to allow for a little less cardio, open up some more strength. You need half racks and you need double that free weight area. I mean, if you have 5 or 6 multi-adjustable benches, it's not enough. You got to double that up. So that whole thing with the free weight. And then the other trend that just doesn't seem to go away over the last 18 months is staffing, finding trainers, finding Group X people. Yes. I mean, every event that I go to or plan for, that's always an issue. And then technology, which is your world. I'm not the expert there, but everyone is trying to figure out what's the right platform for them to and how to maximize all the different platforms that they're using and get them under one umbrella if that's at all possible. But that always seems to come up as well. And then personal training, right, is kind of coming back. A lot of competitors. I also have seen quite a bit of people selling their facilities. People. So I think that's kind of interesting. So those are just some observations that I've made over, especially since December of 2023.
Yeah, well, the strength one, obviously, we all know about that. We see it in our numbers as well. So there's a skew to strength. I think your observations around Gen Z and female are spot on. I absolutely agree with that. And yes, whether you're talking about commercial, nonprofit, any venue right now, labor is a big challenge. And the ability to really optimize the member experience while using technology to cut costs and still investing in people in the right ways, I think that's a formula. You think about how Apple made the gangster move of gangster moves, moving into retail when it did a long time ago. And you see how they executed the appropriate adoption of technology and human interface, which made them arguably the most successful retailer in history. I think, you see these different chains trying to figure this out and get that optimal balance. So I think you're right on, spot on in your observations. So given these kind of changes and given your experience, you've been a club operator, you've sold to clubs, you're a leader in trends in the universe of fitness with FISA. What is your advice? How should, different operators think about this stuff, and how can they really benefit from this in your view?
Yeah. One other category that I didn't mention is recovery.
Yeah.
Recovery, longevity, well-being. I mean, this is so big today. So I think the most important thing to answer your question is you really got to know your market. Okay. Listen to your staff, interview your staff. Something that surprises me whenever I meet with a club operator, I always ask them, when was the last time you visited your competitors? And I'm amazed that so many times they don't know what their competitors are doing. They may hear it. So that's the first thing. You got to really know where you sit in the marketplace. So I think that, and then you can't be a club owner alone. You got to have peer support. You got to have friends, and I call it fitness friends. And I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits of FISA is not only do you go to a great resort and you have great education and you meet with wonderful world-class suppliers, but that coordination or connection from owner operator to owner operator or vendor to vendor or vice versa. I mean, it's so important because that information share. I forget who it was, but during COVID, one of the comments that came up in my weekly little reports that I was doing is, we have to continue to share our collective wisdom. And I love that. And I just think that's so important today.
With respect to technology, and I like your answer, you had worked with ABC Financial, now ABC Fitness before. So you've been in the industry a long time. What is your advice? I know you say you're not a technologist, but from a practical operator's perspective, what do you see as the friction point and resistance around that when it comes to adopting technology solutions in your view?
Yeah, I think, hey, I'm the baby boomer here, right? So I'm the last to come to adoption of technology, my age group. So I think there's a little bit of people feeling uncomfortable with saying,
Yep.
I don't know the answer. So sometimes they may stay away from something just because they're uncomfortable with it or don't want to seem like they're not knowledgeable enough. So I think that's the first thing. And then again, by talking to other people, going to other events, and how have they solved those problems? I think that's really a smart move. And now that I have a chance to see so many and communicate with so many different suppliers, it's not just your equipment anymore. It's insurance people, it's tech
Right.
people, it's collections, it's billing companies. I mean, there's so many neat things. People are doing apps, retention. All right, how important is that today, right? And I know there's great technology available that can help a person in that. So for me, hey, you got to have a good billing company, right? That's number one.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, from a marketing standpoint, and that member engagement, and that using technology to help you communicate with your customer throughout that the life of their membership or their journey. I think that's so important. And you got to stay in communication with your customers, or somebody else will.
Yeah, no, you're right. So, Sal, I want to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with the listeners today. It's always a pleasure. When is the next event for FISA?
Oh, well, we're gearing up. We're going to Music City, USA. We're going to Nashville for FISA East, November 11th through the 13th. I'm so excited about that. Our vendors we're full with that, but I do have a few spots for some operators. So if anyone is interested in that, they can just send me a note on LinkedIn or send an email to sal@fisana.org. So.
Awesome. Sal, thanks so much for your wisdom and insights. We'll have your connection in the show notes, and we appreciate you making time today.
Thank you, Bryan. It was an honor, and thank you, and congrats on your new opportunity with Core Health and Fitness. You're doing a great job. So thank you, Bryan.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.